Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and today I'm taking you over the best £400 gaming PC build for the months of May and June, but the whole of 2016 really. So make sure to drop a like rating and subscribe, it really does help me out, and hopefully there's some more content on the channel that you are going to enjoy. But for now, let's get into this build. This is a phenomenal build for the price range, and whilst it does make some sacrifices in some areas in order to get the performance out of this build that we have, then those sacrifices are justifiable. So make sure to listen along and we'll go through the build step by step. So the first thing really is, how does this build perform? This build is insanely good at 1080p. You're not going to be doing any 1440p gaming or 4K gaming for that matter on this build. However, this PC will smash the latest AAA titles, including like GTA 5 and that kind of region at 30 and 60 frames per second. Unfortunately, this build does have incompatibilities with The Witcher 3, but I'm going to go over that in just a moment, which is a prominent AAA title for 2016 and the end of 2015 for that matter. And this build will smash incredibly well, much better than any of my AMD builds, some slightly older titles such as World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Minecraft and CSGO. So let's get straight into the build and all will be explained as we go along. So let's start off with the CPU. Now there always are two options when it comes to budget builds such as this. You either go for Intel or AMD. You either go for the Intel Pentium line and the Core i3 line, or you go for the Athlon line and the 6-core FX series chips. For this build I went for an Intel CPU, and there's a few reasons for that. The first is their insane single-threaded performance. The Intel Core i3 line are insane with single-threaded performance, and that means when it's only utilising one core. Now I know what you're thinking, James, if this CPU is a dual core and it's got two hyper-threaded cores, so is recognised by Windows as a quad-core CPU, why on earth would we only want to use one? Now the pure reason behind that is because many games only need one. Many games only need one, that's the matter of it. Even some of the latest AAA titles only need one. So for that matter, going for a CPU such as this Core i3-6100 is the best option. It's a dual-core CPU with hyper-threading, which means it is compatible with GTA 5, but the fact that it hasn't got 4 physical cores and it's got 2 hyper-threaded virtual cores and 2 physical cores does make it an issue for The Witcher 3, unfortunately. The motherboard that seeds all of this is the ASRock H110M-HDV, and this brings me on to my next point. Going for a Skylake SKU and a Skylake chip allows for DDR4 memory support, and you don't understand how helpful that will be and how relieved you'll be in a year, 2 years, 3 years, even 4 years time when you come to upgrade your system, and rather than having an older DDR3 rammed in because you've gone for an AMD chip, you've instead got DDR4. This will come in so helpful later on down the line, and getting in with a new architecture now is the best option. Not to mention the incredible upgrade paths. You can go all the way up to Intel Core i7-6700K, and no doubt any of the Kaby Lake chips they released early 2017 that will still support this brand new LGA 1151 socket, which should be around and prominent for the next 3 to 4 generations. For RAM, I went for an 8GB DIMM of Corsair. It's just the Corsair Value Select DDR4. By no means is this high-end DDR4, so you could make the argument that if you were going to go for a higher-end build later on down the line, that you would want a better, beefier DIMM. But it looks alright, it does the job, and of course, if you are going to upgrade this build later on down the line, you can always buy an aftermarket heatsink and heat spreader for the RAM and put that on. But for the minute, DDR4 2133 speed is not only faster and better than the DDR3 counterparts, but also not that much more expensive. For storage, I went for a Seagate Barracuda 1TB hard drive. It comes in a 3.5-inch form factor, which is the average size for hard drives, and 7200 RPM is as fast as mainstream hard drives get. Now this is where the first sacrifice comes. Previously, my £400 build and £450 build have had SSDs. Unfortunately, this build can't afford it, but SSDs don't directly affect your gaming performance, so it was a sacrifice that had to be made. This Seagate Barracuda drive is rather nice and fast for a hard drive and super reliable. I've got 3 of these drives and not yet had one of them fail. Knock on wood if you will. The video card I went for was Zotac GeForce GTX 950. You may have noticed in my £350 build I went for a 950, but I amped it up pun intended, because this is their amp edition. I amped it up and went for their 2 fan design and their really nice look and performance card. I love this card. It's got a 2GB frame buffer, meaning you're restricting yourself to 1080p, but that's where the sweet spot is for the GTX 950. And after all, you ain't going to be gaming at 1080 and 1440 and 4K, with a build in this price range. I'm loving what Zotac are doing, and whilst they were a slightly smaller developer and producer of cards in comparison to like GeekaWhat and Asus and all those kind of brands, they have stepped it up, and I love what Zotac are doing with the new 900 series of cards. For the case, I went for a new one from BitFenix. It's the BitFenix Nova. It's an ATX mid-tower. You can get it in white or black. No more needs to be said. It doesn't have a window, but this build isn't the most aesthetically pleasing anyway, and it's super cheap, so it's a great option. For the power supply, the XFX XT 500W is a great option. It's 80+ bronze certified and is in a full ATX form factor, which is the average for power supplies. If you want to see my review of an XFX power supply, you can watch my XFX XXX edition 850W power supply review. Spoiler alert, it's a good one. I love the XFX graphics cards and power supplies, and this one is no exception. So hopefully you've liked this build. It's been a little bit longer, but I've tried to cover everything in a bit more detail than I have previously. And make sure to drop a like rating and subscribe. I'm sure there's loads of other content that you're going to like, and subscribing helps me out more than you could ever imagine. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to tweet it, Facebook it, Vine it, Instagram it, all that good stuff, and share this video about. And as always, we will see you in the next GeekaWhat video.